Cool beans.
Welcome everyone to our dev talk with Stephanie Miranda. We're going to listen to them, and they've got they used to be a software engineer and a founding member of Code Devils, and they're now a product manager at a company. So we're going to listen to them for about an hour and 30 minutes of Q&A time. So go ahead, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thanks, Rhett. I really appreciate you introducing me and your time and everybody showing up here. I know it's Friday. It's like coming time to the weekend. When I was doing this, I tried not to do them on Fridays. So I would like to just kind of open it up a little bit before I dive into my conversation, give you a little bit of background about me. I'm curious, in the crowd here, where's everybody at in your process, in your degree? How, like, just a reaction or something? What do we have as far as like freshmen in the group? Any freshmen or sophomores or juniors? We got a sophomore, got some juniors, cool. Got some freshmen, awesome. Graduating in May, congrats, love that. Nice. Cool, first year at ASU, transfer from CS and robotics at CC, focused on embedded systems, very cool. And junior-ish, awesome. So I like to start that out. I like to start out kind of knowing where everybody's at, just to get an idea of who I'm chatting with, right? It's a little hard in video, so it's nice to meet you all. As Rhett mentioned, I am Stephanie Miranda. I'm a founding member of Code Devils. We founded in 2016, which I'm sure many of you know. There were 6 of us when we started. I was originally a project events coordinator and eventually moved up to become president. And by the time I left, I think we had about 1,700 members across 17 different time zones. And I believe you're over 2,000 now. So that's super cool. I kind of quietly watch what's going on here because it ties into my background and it ties into what's driven me in my particular career journey. So a little bit about me and to understand my history and how I wound up where I wound up and why I kind of like asking that question and getting to know that background. So for me, my journey to technology in general was a little bit unconventional, I guess you could say. I waited about 10 years before I decided to go to school. And I kept hitting the glass ceiling, right? I wanted to affect change. I would run companies or own businesses, and it wasn't happening for me. So I took a leap of faith. I applied to ASU. I didn't even own a computer at the time and got into the program. So I was awesome. It's one of the only ABET approved programs at the time. And so I was very happy to be accepted. I started my journey here, and it was just really quiet at that time. There were no student organizations for remote learning or anything like that. And I have a passion for people. I really like asking questions. I have a drive for technology and all those sorts of things that I've done in my past are all, customer service related or technology, like tech support over the phone, that type of thing. So long way to say, eventually I just got tired of being on my own and started asking around, and we were able to get enough people to come together and form Code Devils. So that was great. We were able to grow that, and I was able to get a lot of skills here, right? But I wasn't able to get any internships while I was at ASU. I was doing projects on the side. I was doing our coding challenges. I helped create this organization, but I was still not landing any internships. I was getting interviews for internships, and I was, applying. In my sophomore year, I started applying just a handful at a time, kind of starting out really small, something fresh, just like something easy I thought I could do, having like zero background writing code. And I struggled, right? I struggled getting any of those positions. any attention, any of that sort of thing. But I kept pushing at Code Devils, and I kept pushing at what this is and was, and applying myself to those side projects and building my repertoire, my skills up. So about 2019, I started doing freelancing as a web developer. And so that was like my first official job working at technology, and I had to create it for myself. And it was cool. I got to work with a really small business owner who was completely revamping their website. And then I got to work with a nonprofit public library system. And I got to help them revamp their website and keep it up to date during the coronavirus. So that was actually really cool to be able to be involved with that county and everything right when the pandemic was starting, and see what kind of things that were happening for the community at that time. So that was a really great bit of interest, but I still, in 2019, at this point, I was like a junior-ish, right? I'm coming up on my senior year. Gosh, at this point, I'm really thinking I'm going to get an internship. I think at this point, I had 2 hackathons under my belt that I had done in person with other Code Devils members. I had done plenty of challenges to HackerRank. We had, I don't think at that point we had successfully hosted any hackathons within the Code Devils organization, but I was doing all the work, right? I was doing all the things that everybody was telling me. Go out there and work on your portfolio, work on your code, do the challenges, and practice interviewing, right? I started practicing interviewing early on. That was something that Chris Hoadley, I believe I'm saying his last name right, the president before me, and a couple others started too, is just like interview prep and things like that. And I still wasn't getting it. It was just like, wow, really tough stuff. But anyways, so graduation was coming closer and closer. The pandemic came, and I was, needless to say, a little freaking out, right? I hadn't gotten an internship, and my only real job in tech at this point had been freelancing, and that wasn't super successful, right? I have 2 clients at this point. And so I took it, I just thought, you know what? I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to persist at this thing. And so I think it was fall of 2019. It was either spring or fall of 2019. I can't remember the timeline exactly, but there was another hackathon that happened on campus, and I was actually able to go, and it coincided with a career fair that was happening on campus at the same time. And so I was like, cool, that worked. And I went, I participated in a team as part of the Code Devils. And I was able to attend the career fair, meet lots of people there. And you know what they say, the third time's a charm. So that's the first hackathon that my team actually won anything. We actually won, I believe, 2 different categories, one for best use of MongoDB, and then the other was best AR, augmented reality application. More than happy to share about that when we get to Q&A, but that was kind of an interesting project. And I thought, wow, this is really going to make me stand out, right? I'm at a career fair. I've just won with my team at a hackathon, all these things. And still through that whole year, I was applying and just not getting anything. And finally, about a month before graduation, I kept going. I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to a challenge. And I finally have the opportunity I applied at the career fair. I applied for a few different consulting firms, right? I have a passion for people and a really wide range of interests, from mobile development, web development. Not a big fan of back-end development. Many of you have a chance to talk to Professor Acuna about that. That is, he'll have some fond memories of me struggling through his class and asking lots of questions. Absolutely ask questions. ask questions, be hungry, and be driven. Because if I didn't do that, I would not have eventually gotten a handful of interviews with several different consulting firms. I got, after that hackathon and career fair, I got 3 different interviews with 3 different consulting companies, Deloitte, Slalom, and Infosys. And I don't know if any of you are interested in doing any kind of consulting work. It's a very interesting field to be in, and it was a very interesting experience to have as my first software developer position. So I didn't go into consulting thinking like, oh, I'm gonna, be really specialized here or anything like that. I'm very open mind because I wanted to learn. I want to absorb, I want to learn, I want to take in everything, right? And so in those 3 interviews, I didn't make it very far with Deloitte. I got almost to an offer with Slalom, and then the pandemic hit. And then with Infosys, I actually got my first job offer within 2 weeks of graduating. So that was super awesome. It made me feel much better about graduating and the journey that I had been on, right? All the interviews that I had done in 19 and all the practice and the reworking of my resumes, this, that, and the other, the challenges, it all had finally paid off. I got my first software engineering job, and it was super awesome. But, consulting is a mixed bag. It's very interesting. So when you go into a consulting type of position, I don't know how the other 2 companies do it, but at least with Infosys, my understanding is that any consulting firm will have what's called a bench. And when you are on the bench, you're basically doing trainings, you're getting certified to do different things. My time on the bench was spent learning a lot about Angular. So when I graduated at ASU, my capstone was done in React. I had Java under my belt. We did some Spring and all that sort of thing. And so that in Infosys, I was immediately thrust into Angular. And that was a very interesting shift coming from React and how they function. And so, I went through Infosys training. I learned all the things that they wanted me to learn. I actually got certified in Azure Cloud Fundamentals, like how you structure those things and how does cloud work. That whole fun, dispersed ECM type of stuff that also AWS does as well. They're big competitors in that field. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on the bench. Typically with Infosys, with that particular company, I think they expect people to be on the bench when they're first hired for about 6 months, getting trained up to ensure that when clients hire me, right, they go to Infosys and say, hey, we need extra engineers to complete this project on a short-term basis. And so they're like, cool, we've got this many engineers that you can have and just dump into your project right now, right? So it took me about 9 months actually to get my first client, and that fell through, which was interesting, but I did get to learn a lot. That client was working in the financial industry, and they were processing credit card payments. And so I got to learn a lot. Like as I was ramping up to take on work from that client, I got to learn a lot about the communication of how credit card transactions work, which if you've done your embedded programming class, I saw somebody was interested in embedded programming. Financial transactions work a lot in the same way as that sort of thing. So that was really handy. I was able to draw on my experience and my knowledge from school to help kind of guide me in that realm, but it's totally just like it's a very interesting world to work in, and the characters and the encryption that happens with it is very fascinating. But anyways, that client fell through, and then I was on the bench again. What do? I'm hungry. I really like working with people, so I volunteered my time. And within that organization, I was able to stand up kind of a small set of study groups for other people on the bench. So I had been on the bench for a very long time. That meant that I had some skills and some things that I could reach back and say, hey, you know, this course will help you get here. That course will help you get there. This will make sure that you're meeting the base guidelines to get off the bench. So that was kind of an interesting thing, right? I got to be able to step up and not really take charge, but work with some people that I wouldn't normally have had access to. Being just like, I joked all the time when I worked for that company that I was a hired geek, basically, as an engineer, right? They just hire me to fill the spot for a little while and then I get to go. So yeah, that worked out well. And then after about a year there, I finally got lined up with another financial client, an investment firm, a really large investment firm. And then I got COVID. And right when I was about to be hands-on writing my first lines of code as a software engineer, I got COVID. I got to sit in planning meetings. I got to sit in stand-ups. I got to shadow another engineer, but I could not sit and write code. It was really difficult for me. And unfortunately, my journey with COVID was lengthy. I believe at the time, Brandon was your president and reached out to me to see if I wanted to help with, I believe you all have some kind of program going on, or alumni product management type of thing, or you were talking about it at the time. And I couldn't do it. I was like so fatigued and still healing from COVID. And that went on, that was the end of 2021. That went on until about mid-year last year. And I tried to go back several times. Every time I tried to go back, it was like I hadn't written code ever in my life. Looking at the syntax, looking at the highlighting in an IDE, just all of it. I would get migraines, and I knew I didn't have time to recover to get back to writing code the way that I had been doing before. And so I started looking at other options. And I, always been interested in people, always interested in learning and leading. I've never been a huge fan of actually writing code personally. And I'm also not very good at it individually. Like, I watched my development team develop things and I asked them a question and they know that stuff. Even when I was in school at my sharpest point, I had such a hard time remembering algorithms and the order of certain things. And don't even get me started on how many hours I've spent hunting down a missing semicolon, right? I'm sure we've all been there. And it's just, it's not my strong suit. I really like talking with people and affecting bigger change. So in my career shift, I started looking at what are some other roles that I can do that fit and are things that I like. So I started looking into product management, technical product owners, technical product management, project management, anything kind of in that realm, right? Something that I could do technically, still use my skills, but not have to be in code bases day in and day out. And I had applied for lots of other jobs like that before. I basically, since starting ASU in 2016, I have not submitted less than 20 applications a year. So that's about 2 a month. And whether I get interviews or not, it's not really a big deal to me. It's more the practice of one, doing the application, and two, if I get the interview, whether I want the job or not, those soft skills and that extra practice of interviewing is super key. I have to say, of all the advice I've gotten, that is one of the best pieces that I've gotten. So I had already had, applications out there kind of sitting and waiting. And when I went back to do a fresh look with the new information and my new landscape, I found a company here local called TrackVia. And, when I started my degree at ASU, I had this mental image of what I wanted to be doing. I wanted a job that was going to be remote, that was going to help people who were working in technology do technology better, whatever that meant. And I wanted the freedom and flexibility to kind of call the shots, which is why I, went down the freelancing route and why I went down the consulting route. I felt like those would give me some of the options that I personally wanted out of my career. So that's a TrackVia. Their job description kind of ticked a lot of those boxes for me. I was like, this is really cool. So as I learned more about the company, as I start diving in, TrackVia is a low-code software service. And it's just this piques my interest even more. So the more I learn about TrackVia, the more I get excited. And I actually get a call from the product team, the hiring manager, and have a great first round interview. Did 3-round interviews and landed the job. So I got to start in June of last year, and I am technically the web product owner for a software as a service business platform that is a low-code platform that helps businesses fill business processes where software that is, there's a phrase for it, and I always mess up the phrase, pointed software has gaps. So let me rephrase that. That basically means that what TrackVia does is it helps link technological or business systems together to fill in gaps of process. So some of our customers will do things like quality assurance, but they get issues that come in through Zendesk, and then, like a problem comes in through Zendesk. Hey, I need you to quality check this, but there's not a great software that is customized for that particular business use case. And so what TrackVia does for our customers is it allows them to connect to existing type software, off-the-shelf type of software, things like Zendesk, QuickBooks, Tableau, Workato, all sorts of technologies that our customers use, and integrate that into really unique business flows. So, for example, they can set up a form that will have somebody answer all these questions, and it's a part of a workflow, and all of the information that is collected gets funneled into that customer's database, which they can take and do things with. And I'm more than happy to talk a little bit more about what TrackVia does. It's a really complex low-code platform, but I just kind of want to give a little bit of background there of what it is and what the product is. And so what does that mean for me to be a product owner? And I'm not sure if we've got some freshmen here, kind of all ranges. So I'm not sure your actual background in technology, and I'm not going to assume. So I'm going to go with a very basic, I'm going to pull back and just kind of assume that we're all level set, right? So according to Scrum.org, a product owner is somebody who provides clarity to their team about a product's vision and goal. And they do this by maximizing the value delivered by effective backlog management. We're seen as visionaries, collaborators, decision makers, customer representatives to the engineering and business organizations. We're seen as influencers and experimenters. So that's kind of summarized from that website, but that's a lot, right? That's putting up a lot of really big words into what that means, or, you know, into one title. And so for me, what does that mean? Day to day, I'm not writing code, but I do work directly with a web development team. So I have currently, TrackV is kind of a leaner company. So I currently have 3 developers that I work with. It was 4 when I started. And every day, plus I have a QA team that I work with and a design team that I work with directly almost every single day. So every day at 9 a.m., I go, some days I go to stand up. As the product owner, that is optional for me. And typically, if I do not go to the stand-up, it's usually because I am at a customer meeting or I'm having another business meeting of some type. Things like meeting with marketing is something that I do. I meet with our operations group to make sure that releases can go out. We also have some really high security type customers that our operations team typically takes care of directly. We also have our technical support group, our education group that I work with, helping to ensure that all of the copy and expectations and trainings of any new features and products go out in the right order at the right time, and everybody within the company is lined up, and we have all of our customers get informed at the same time as well. Let's see what here. One of the other interesting things that I've been able to experience as a product owner, and in particular, it's unique for my company in particular, in that they were already in the midst of shifting their process from sort of an agile, sort of a waterfall agile version kind of thing, which you'll find that any company that you talk to, almost none of them have a pure agile or Scrum methodology. But anyways, so the engineering organization at my company was already shifting their process to be much more agile. They're hardening that process and they're shifting the tools that they use. So TrackVia has used TrackVia to do its work. In the industry, we call that dog fooding. We're using our own technology to do the work that we do. That is amazing because it proves the technology. But our technology is missing some things. If you have written any code at all and you've had the opportunity to be in GitHub or GitLab, you know what kind of things that you have, the tools and the power that you have there to manage your code. And so that's an initiative that I've been able to help with, alongside of some consultants that our company had hired. So because of my background and because of the education that I have and the certifications that I've been able to get or get close to getting, they've all kind of culminated to make me a really awesome fit in this particular position. It gives me the ability to see some of the engineering side, be able to speak to the engineers and translate the business asks that come through into really structured engineer issues, tickets, however you want to talk about that. And then the flip side of that is when my engineering team is making changes, or they give some pushback on something. They say, hey, that's not feasible, or hey, this is going to take us longer than what maybe the business would like, right? I can then, because of my skills and my knowledge and my background, I can take that and translate it out to the business and kind of be that middle person and get everybody aligned and have that an interesting sort of, I don't know, like translation is what I call it. I think of myself as a translator between the business side and the engineering side. I do see a question here. Oh, okay, cool.
That was my answer to the question. The question was people were having trouble understanding what the company you work for is and what your title is, and I kind of just in 10 words explained what was going on.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I know it's a little Trackmia is kind of an interesting one. Internally, we like to think of it as sort of like Play-Doh, right? If you are a business person and you have business processes, but let's say you do a lot of your business process in Excel spreadsheets. Those are our arch nemesis along with Monday.com. So typically our customers will be buried in spreadsheet, I don't know, purgatory or something, one of Dante's circles, I guess. They're just like, some of them have hundreds and hundreds of spreadsheets with formulas and things like that. And Trackmia gives them a nice database and a way to be able to manage that information a bit better. Another initiative that I've been able to take on, and I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily leading it, but I am definitely kind of higher in the steering of this particular ship, is something called product-led growth. And I don't know if anybody here has heard about that, but it is a business ask, or it's a business tactic, really. And so the easiest way to explain it is basically that the software or the product that you're selling should be able to sell itself. So a really good example of this is Netflix, right? If you download the Netflix app, I'm not going to have to walk you through tons of stuff. You're pretty much going to download the app, sign in or sign up, and start watching things, right? It kind of sells itself. And so that is a unique challenge that I have in my day-to-day, is how do I get this product that is complex, that can suit almost every or any business case? How do I get that to sell itself? And that is an interesting challenge that I've had for the last 6 months or so. And it's one that won't go away. Product-led growth is actually kind of taking over the engineering world. And I believe that low-code platforms like Trackmia are actually going to be a huge thing as well going forward, right? In the last couple of months, we've seen mass layoffs of lots of software engineers and technologists and really big name companies. And if it's something you haven't heard and you're in software engineering, definitely start keeping an ear out in the market and what's happening in the business world. I would say that as I've, been in the business world and in this market now for about 3 years, low code is becoming and showing itself to be extremely powerful. The low code space is allowing even really highly experienced software developers to develop at even faster pieces, because most of it is drag and drop, right? It's a WYSIWYG type thing. That is,
I agree with that actually. I actually heard that low code was the future probably like 6 years ago by some guy out here in El Segundo that I know at a gym. He was just telling me this randomly. And now that you're all mentioning this, it's all coming back to me. He told me 6 years ago that I shouldn't focus on coding, just focus on low code and general IT concepts, and more than likely you'll just land a development position.
well, I would say definitely work on the coding skills. It's good to have that background, right? Low code is still really quite new. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen. If you all are interested in TrackV a little bit, I can walk you through the website, the marketing website, and just kind of show you a little bit of what it is. There's some really interesting stuff on there. Yeah, cool. This one, and boom. Cool. So, welcome to TrackVia, where we connect and track everything that matters. So you're seeing over here little display of what that looks like, right? This is the live product. This is the web-based product that I get to help steer and control the destiny of from one day to the next. Here's some of the logos, the companies that we work with. So you'll see here, Full Cafe, 3D Systems, LifePoint, Liberty Mutual. So we're technically a startup, and I did mention that we're lean. Our entire company is less than 100 employees, and we drive nearly $15 million worth of business or more on any given year. And that number is constantly shifting through sales and through marketing efforts and things like that. Right here is really kind of interesting. You're getting to see the drag and drop WYSIWYG live. I think this is actually a little bit newer, so I was super excited to see this and be able to share this image with you all. So what you're seeing here is, you know, somebody is in an application, they're building a dashboard. We've got maps and charts. We've got different views that you can build and forms. We've got tables, and, you know, the tables look very much like an Excel spreadsheet, and the entire system is extremely similar to what you would experience with a relational database model. That's basically exactly what you're building. Is on the backside, you know, we at our company, we're calling it tables. We're giving you these different beautiful things that you can build on top of that table, but ultimately it's your app. And then I mentioned the different integrations that we can do. This is just some of them. We have the ability to do, sorry, I mentioned this is low code space, right? It's not no code space. In some of these applications, they can get really super complex. So let's say that I need to connect two tables together, or let's say I need to connect 3 tables together to do a few different things, right? You're getting a really complex backend database, but with our solutions, we're not asking any of our customers to do anything with that database, to know anything about managing a database, to know anything about deploying anything. And for me, one of the coolest things about our product versus some of the competitors in the landscape right now is that when you build in TrackVia, you build once, and it is available natively in Android and iOS. So you don't have to go and download another builder and rebuild your app 3 different times. And that is a huge piece of kind of what makes us stand out in the market. A lot of our competitors actually force their customers to do that. We also happen to stand out as being one of the easiest to learn in the low code space. So this is, I'll let you all watch the video because I don't think I'm actually set up to share sound through here. Anyways, that's a little bit about TrackV. I don't know if anybody has any other things they want to see on this website. You're more than welcome to go and check it out on your own. I'll drop the link in our chat. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've got to share this evening. I'm more than happy to open it up, and I know it's not an hour, but you know, whatever, we're flexible. I'm happy to open it up and answer any questions that you all have about TrackVia, about anything that I've talked about, which is kind of a lot, right? So yeah, I'm gonna open up the floor and just give you all free reign. Ask away whatever you'd like.
I wanted to know, what was your interview prep like coming from a software engineer to a product owner?
Ooh, excellent question. So, you know, for interview prep with software engineering, I typically include lots and lots and lots of HackerRank, leak code challenges, things like that. For preparing for a product management interview, that was more getting refamiliarized with the SDLC in general. Just, you know, what does that mean? Every little piece from start to finish, who's responsible for which pieces. Being able to talk a lot about ways that I was able to convince people to do things in my freelance work was actually a bigger part of my interview than I realized. But yeah, just like a lot of conflict resolution. I had to do some EQ testing and things like that. And some of the other prep I did was watch a lot of YouTube videos, because there's not really anything tangible that a product owner does, right? Ooh, watch me sort this magical backlog. Nobody wants to watch somebody do that. So the interviews typically for somebody in my position are a little bit more, can you talk about technology off the top of your head? So one of the questions I got was, what is Bootstrap and what is it used for? And I had to be able to, you know, give details about that and how somebody might use that, and explain it basically like, you know, I was talking to a fifth grader so that they could get it. And then really just, you know, that convincing and conflict resolution, because, you know, as I said, being a translator, I've got a lot of stakeholders, and one of my managers says it really well. I don't manage anybody. I have no power whatsoever, and I actually don't have any sort of team. I get to manage a backlog, and that's it. And I get to prioritize things based on the information that I hear in the meetings that I go to. So what my manager says is, we don't manage people, we manage energies. We manage a backlog and we manage energies. Stakeholders will disagree, and it's my job to smooth that out and be able to find a path forward. So it's a lot of stuff like that, being able to just kind of be prepared to answer any kind of conflicting type questions. And then I did ask a lot of questions about their technology and things that they were using at the time. And come to find out, it's all their own tools. So that's pretty cool. And
Got a message in the DM next.
okay. Let's see. Question in the comments says, no worries about the message being long. I don't have any experience outside of the classroom, nor do I have any current work experience of any type, but I would like to get a job or internship. What do you recommend? Ooh, all right. I'll start with that one because there's a few of questions here in this. So excellent starting question. I would suggest definitely, first of all, you've already started out great. You're here, you're part of Code Devils. I don't know all of what Code Devils is doing right now, but I've kept up enough to know that there is plenty of stuff that you can get involved with the group here and start getting your hands on writing code. If software engineering is exactly, that's what you want to do, write as much code as you can, write projects, be involved. And I'm going to say this so everyone can hear here. Writing software is not a solo event. You will always have some team member, even if in the real working world, when you get an issue or a ticket in your hands and it's assigned to you, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to be the only person that's working on it. Some piece of information, another engineer on another team has, maybe you just are familiar enough with the particular code base and the tech stack that they've got, right? So be as involved as you possibly can here with Code Devils and keep applying. Even if you're not getting anywhere and it feels like you're just, running up against the wall with your applications and you're not getting any interviews, the process of just applying and the process of redoing your resume and having to think through those answers is super, super valuable. It allows you to be able to talk about yourself really quickly and concisely and not go too overboard in details. I know that ASU has an excellent career center as well. I would send my resume there. I think I started sending it my sophomore year, and I sent it once a year, every year after that until I graduated. And a lot of the professors that I had at this time, I believe some of them have shifted, but your professors, a lot of them, if they're not actually working in the industry, they have in the past. So you can always chat with them, reach out and say, hey, this is a goal I have. This is a position I want to do. This is a company I want to work with, right? And a lot of times, if they don't have those answers, they can help point you in the direction that you want to go. That's a big thing that Dr. Gary and I used to do and communicate about all the time. And he really helped mentor and steer me into a career that works well for me and my particular skill set. Cool. And then the next question here, I'm currently a computer science major. Is it worth specializing to any degree? If so, what specialization do you find pretty flexible jobs-wise? Computer science, I did software engineering. I'm not 100% sure what exactly computer science covers and the difference between the two. I will say in this particular realm with computer science, technology, anything that you're doing, writing code, or you're, kind of looking in this sort of area, it depends on what you like to do, right? So when I was writing code, I can write databases, but do I like it? No. Am I any good at it? I can get through, but I'm probably going to need 3 other engineers to check and make sure I did all the joins right. But I really like making the world beautiful, and I really am into art. All these paintings back here, these are all mine. And so I drew on that. And for me personally, that meant that I am really good at being a front-end web engineer, right? I like that experience. I like making sure that UI, UX is just right. So I would say when you're thinking about trying to specialize or where you want to go, especially if you haven't done anything, get your hands on some things. Get your hands on some projects. Get your hands on, some of the assignments on the side, some of the coding challenges, and just, tap into what you naturally are driven towards internally. there's almost always some kind of field out there that will fit what you want to do. And it really depends on what you like. So if you're more data driven, you're very structured, like you like the back end stuff and not so much of the front end, then, you know, maybe that's a database engineer. Maybe you like working a little bit more with pipelines and automation and making sure things work properly and building things that other developers can, you know, connect to, like SDKs, stuff like that. So maybe, you know, you're a DevOps type of engineer or an SDET. So, you know, there's some different options. And then in the same group of questions here, what languages would you recommend learning? And what other skills would you recommend learning? What are the best ways to gain experiences in your opinion? And what do you recommend learning how do you recommend learning terminology? Awesome. Great set of questions. So I'm going to refer to my earlier answer. You're already in an excellent place that's going to get you started. You've got resources within Code Devils, not just the current membership, but alumni. Any of the alumni, at least the ones that I still stay connected to, we are more than happy to reach out and give you feedback, information, input, time and energy if we've got it, any of those things. A lot of your fellow Code Devils members are actually also already working in the field. Some of them are already developers. Some of them, when I was going to school, had been engineers for 15 years and they were coming to get a degree because their boss said they finally needed a piece of paper to do the work that they had been doing for 15 years. You've got a massive amount of resources around you in Code Devils beyond just your fellow students and the faculty. So I say definitely, you know, reach out, ask questions, be hungry for the knowledge that you're here for, right? It's not going to come to you free. I mean, it's there free for you to have, but you've got to go out and hunt it down a little bit. You got to do some work to get it. And I'd say again, wherever you're kind of naturally driven or whatever feels right to you, I would steer towards that. You're going to wind up being much happier in your development career if you do that. And then as far as languages, again, that's really going to depend on what you'd like to be doing, right? Languages is going to be just like coffee or other warm humanizing liquids, right? Everybody has their own personal favorite. For me, I don't really like writing in any software language anymore, but I have to write a lot of HTML, Markdown for documentation and things like that. I know Python is super popular because it's close to human readable, very powerful. Yeah, it's really going to depend on which direction you'd like to go through. Cool. And then I got another question here from Michael. Would you recommend taking any foot in the door career as an internship, or should we pursue an internship closer to our desired career path? That is a lovely question. You know, I find that people wind up in technology careers from all sorts of backgrounds, right? For me personally, I did fast food. What else did I do? I owned businesses. I was a full service gas station attendant for a while. I mean, you name it, I probably did it at some point, right? So where that's concerned, it's just a little, I would say if it has some sort of interest to you, you can pivot that to work in your career, right? So a way that I've been able to do that for myself, I didn't get a single internship and I didn't get any jobs while I was in college. But what I was able to do is say, hey, you know what? I haven't worked in technology at all, but I haven't been resting on my laurels. I've got this flashcards project that I did. This is a native Android application. Does it render properly? No, but it's pretty much close to done. I've got this Pomodoro timer over here that I worked on with a master student who helped me learn about clean code in JavaScript. I've also got hackathons under my belt where I got to learn how to work on a team and build something very quickly and learn a new language very quickly. You know, I was able to take all of those things, my experience with Code Devils, right? Not just the stuff that I did, like hands on keyboard doing work, building my skill set, but the soft skills. It takes a lot to be a leader in this particular organization, especially at the time, you know, in early 20s, like 17, 18, we were still growing as an organization. We were wondering if, you know, we would still be around from one year to the next. And so I was able to take a lot of those things and, you know, pivot them or turn them into positive things for a job. As a matter of fact, the amount of growth that I was able to achieve when I was president here, it blows people away. There was a 500% growth of membership and what do you call it? Membership and people were doing things. Interaction, that's the word. Yeah, participation, yes. There was a 500% increase in both participation and membership during my time as president. And so, you know, being able to do stuff like this in college, even, you know, I never had a technology job, but I was able to draw on all of this experience and say, hey, look, I did stuff anyways. And it's proven to be really, really good for me in networking, and it got me the jobs that I want. And I'm not shy to say this to anybody in my company. I literally am working my dream job right now. I have a limited flexible time off. I got benefits day one. I can work remotely as much or as little as I'd like. I live close enough to my office that I can walk, bicycle, or drive. I'm in an office building in downtown Denver on the 20th floor with a view of the Salesforce building and an Optiv building. Like, when they walked me into my desk, I was like, you're joking, right? This is like somebody else's desk. But no, I just put one foot in front of the other and did the things that felt right and that I was drawn to, and asked the questions every step of the way, to the point where it felt like maybe I'm being annoying, but it doesn't matter, because you know what? Eventually I got to where I wanted to be. And I feel like somebody asked earlier, what's a good way to learn languages, or what languages to learn? I wanted to circle back on that and just add there. I think there's more value in being able to understand just kind of the general computer science concepts of languages, like how loops work, how data structures work. For the most part, any language that you go to, they're all going to have these things in common, but they're going to function a little bit differently. So a good example of that is C# and Java. They're basically the same language, but C# is Microsoft's version of Java. And I think now that I don't write a lot of code, I'm losing it. But I believe, if I remember correctly, Java has hash maps and C# uses dictionaries. They're basically the same thing, but they just pack a little bit different, like the JVM and whatever C# uses on the back end, which is basically a JVM. They just do it in a little bit backwards step, right? They unpack and then they whatever differently. So, you know, know your data structures, know what the base things are, your loops and those types of things. And then you can be like, okay, when you come to a new language, I need to know these things and their little quirks from whatever other language that I'm coming from. And I think that'll get you a little bit faster into learning new languages. And it is actually a really good hack, I guess you could say, when you go into interviews. Oh yeah, I've not written in this language, but I'm really familiar with this language that's similar. So I know the data structures and I can transfer that knowledge. You see, you kind of want to be able to pivot what you have and find a way to use it, I don't know, in a cool, nifty, new, different way. If I'm saying that well enough. Awesome. Oh, I see Brendan's here. Hi, Brendan.
Hey,
Ooh.
you know,
Uh,
I did want to add something earlier. I think someone was asking about, let me scroll up here, hold on. Work experience. And then we brought up like utilizing code devils.
yeah.
One of the things that I recently have done is I'm using like Code Academy, JetBrains Academy, different tools to like write projects, right?
Yeah.
I don't particularly like think about things a whole lot. I'm not a super creative person. I just like working. So I started using those projects that they have. And what I've been doing is uploading them to GitHub as each part of the project is completed and having it code reviewed by Rhett. He can attest to that. He probably glances at them, but still, it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
And I actually get my GitHub statistics to go up that way. So it looks like I'm actually writing legit projects, even though I mean they may or may not know that they're from those websites or those academic things, but it does work. That's what I've been doing lately. Hold on one second. I'm talking to somebody. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there for anybody. Maybe that's another option. If you don't have enough time to jump in on one of the Code Devils projects, but maybe you can bang out a little side project and have it code reviewed, and then you can get your statistics to go up. So at least like you feel like you're doing something to get a job, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great call out that I didn't even think about because I'm not doing those so much anymore. But yeah, any of the Code Academies, LinkedIn skills assessments that you can
Yeah,
do, any of those types of things, especially if you get some kind of credential at the end of it, that always looks fabulous. Like I get these little cuddly things. I'm like, really, I'm not going to do anything with it. It just sits on my LinkedIn and looks beautiful and enticing for when recruiters are coming to chat with me.
exactly. And you know, there's like the Oracle certs for Java, and then I think there's even some C++ ones in Python. Now, I'm not going to go off the record and say that they're going to make you great software engineers, but um, if you go and get those, I guarantee you'll probably be a great compiler, like a human compiler. Like you'll be able to read code and know exactly what it does because that's what it tests you on, those
Mm-hmm.
exams. Um, I can't speak from experience necessarily, but I feel like that would be an advantage for any software developer to be able to read code and not necessarily need to know what it does, but just follow the logic and you can kind of figure out from there like what it actually does. I think that's really important.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it.
I read more code than I write code, so
exactly.
This
So you should go probably get certified, right? You could probably just walk in and pass that thing.
is
And why not, right? I mean, like I said, I read a lot of blogs and stuff because I've always debated like, oh, am I gonna go do this? Like, is it worth it?
Mhm.
I've just come to the conclusion on my own that it is worth it because even if it doesn't teach you how to be a software engineer, at least you'll know how to read the language and you'll know intuitively what you're reading is what it does. I mean, that's ultimately going to give you a huge advantage over people who don't know how to do that. Most people have to read code for a while or put stuff in it and see what it does. But if you're able to just kind of read it and just kind of have an intuitive sense of what it does, that's a huge advantage, I think. Very
Yeah,
correct.
that's a great call out. You know, I don't write code anymore, but I do read my fair share. And I mean, for learning how to read code, I'm not sure. Maybe Brendan has some good tips
I
or some sites.
I think what I hinted at was going and getting trying out the Oracle Java certifications or any of those other like programming language centric certifications. The tests literally just they're basically testing you on what you get a sliver of code and you have to tell them what it does. You have to tell them the output of the code if it's ran, right? That's
Mhm.
most of those exams are based on that. And it's not going to help you like be a great software engineer, but it's a tool that you can use and it definitely can make you a better software engineer. So um, that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a great call out, right? Not just being able to read it, but to even be able to write even the pseudo logic of what's happening. That's another piece that I think is a great thing to practice while you're in school and for interviews as well, is whiteboarding. Whiteboards are all over the place. Every single one of my engineers has a huge one in their house. I still have mine from college that like it's this size, right? I find this size for me is an excellent size. If I can't break down a problem to fit on this size board, I may not understand the problem well enough, right? So this is kind of a good test to understand what you understand of your code, and then you can work out some pseudocode there, because a lot of your engineering type of interviews will actually ask you to do live coding. And for me, I was never fast enough at it, but I was always fast enough to be able to get through at least the whiteboard portion, right? When you go through and you're working on whiteboarding an answer, you want to talk out loud as you're doing that. Look up any of the like whiteboarding solutions online on YouTube. There's some excellent resources out there for how to do whiteboarding in an interview, but that is a skill that is almost, I would say it's almost more important than like being able to remember how to like properly write code, right? If you can explain the logic, there's always websites and time that you could look up the properness, but the logic of what you're writing has to really matter. Let's see, got a couple other questions going here. Okay. Got some PDFs we're going to share later. Cool. Oh, nice. There's some different recommendations, or I guess some other sites here that TCM Security Academy is one for security-based programming. InfoSec is huge. If you have any interest in security realm at all, that is absolutely a solid choice of path. I don't think low code is going to infiltrate that world for quite some time, if ever. They have a couple of Python courses and reverse malware analysis. That's cool. That's a huge thing. The security side, it's a lot more prevalent than I feel like it was even from when I graduated initially. Like I'm hearing InfoSec and they're involved in a lot more of my meetings than they used to be. So that is a big thing. If you're into doing any kind of ethical hacking, white hat hacking, those types of things, that's a resource for you as well. I think there's some companies out there that specifically look and do work around that. And I'm not sure. I felt like there was a professor that we had at ASU, but I'm not sure if they're here anymore. That was really into security, but I don't think they're here. Yes, white hat hacking is ethical hacking. Cool. Anybody, we've got maybe another 10 minutes or so. Does anybody have any other questions or comments or want to know anything else? Technical, not technical?
I want to know. I have a question.
Okay.
How often, like, what's your day-to-day like? Like, how often do you relax? That's what I want to know. What's your
How often?
work to rest ratio?
What's my work to rest ratio? Well, I am very mindful of that because I have worked lots of jobs where I did 60 plus hours. So I work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but my company also from time to time does no Friday, whatever. So February we had no Fridays so that the CEO and employees could go skiing. He does something similar in the summertime, so we won't work any Friday in the summertime. So it's kind of built in a little bit with my company, but for me, most of my days are spent in meetings and talking and doing this sort of thing, and not so much hands on keyboards or writing reports or any of that sort of thing. So anytime that I can just like kick back and be quiet is okay time for me, because I spend a lot of time talking to people, which is great. That's what I want to be doing, but it just, yeah, it's a lot. So anytime that I'm not in front of a screen is me time. And I'm going out hiking, and spring's almost here. I'm about to start going camping. I actually got approval from my managers to do a little bit of van life light this summer. So I just got a vehicle that I'm gonna turn into like a little convertible micro camper and drive across the country visiting clients as I do so. So that's sort of my plan for the summer. So I kind of find ways to just get it all in there together. Plus, it also helps when you really love your job and you love the problems that you're solving. It makes it feel a little less like work. Not to say that it isn't work, because, you know, when disagreements happen, it's a real thing. So I am open to being connected with on LinkedIn. You are all very welcome to connect with me. And if and when we have any internships that come up within my company, any company that I work with, this is the first stop that I go to. So just throwing it out. We are very lean, but if the opportunity comes, you know, we have 3 distinct development teams. And we actually, like, I feel very grateful for my company. My company is into innovation. And so they've been giving one of our QA engineers some time and space to learn JavaScript in the last few months. And she has now developed her skills well enough alongside of our engineers that we're looking now to see how we can get some of her code that she's done as a QA engineer into production. So that's kind of a neat thing, a unique thing from my company. Let's see, you mentioned similarities between financial processing and embedded. That's not a relationship I would have anticipated. Would you care to elaborate about what their similarities are? Yeah, I'm not, you know, never was an embedded engineer, and Professor Sandy can totally attest to my my due diligence to get through that course, we'll say. I really liked the idea of embedded engineering, and the part for me that was very hard was the writing on bare metal and the kind of the bit shifting that you have to do, and the way that different pieces of your bytes do different things, right? So this set of 4 numbers is on, off, whatever. That series of on, off goes off to say, hey, I'm a Visa card that is in the or that was issued in the US and belongs to this bank and this, right? And that's just like the first 4 pieces or whatever in that message that's sent. And that's a 16-bit message that's getting sent. So each one of those bits, whether it's on or off, is saying something about the transaction that's happening now, the account that it's linked to, the issuer of the card, the bank that the money is going to, the bank that the money is coming from. There's a lot of other things that went into it, but those were some of the biggest things that kind of stood out. And I'm drawing that connection from like my embedded experience was trying to get an Arduino board to like light up when its temperature got too close to a particular range or out of that range. So it like had to light up in different ways based on different temperatures that it was reading. And yeah, that was a very difficult project. It was good. And I've never been more happy to see lights blink in my entire life. But that bit shifting and understanding the mapping and where everything goes is very hard. Oh, nice. There's a Let's Hear the Cool article here. Yeah, absolutely not. Awesome.
Does anybody else have any questions for Stephanie? You guys haven't clicked on the attendance URL. I'm gonna copy and paste that one more time. That way you guys get 50 points for coming to this meeting, and that'll go towards the overall competition for Code Devils. Also, the original Code Devils creator of the competition was Stephanie. I found it. I cannot take credit for this. This was Stephanie's thing. I found it in our Google Drive. I was like, this is a great idea. We should do this.
Yay.
Careful, guys. That URL might be phishing. A
It might
phishing
be.
URL.
I know enough about credit cards, not a whole lot, but
Oh yeah, those numbers on your cards, like it's the mag strip too. Like there's so much about credit card transactions. If you're interested in that world and have like, it's like the ultimate, cipher. It's very cool and interesting and super complex. And whoever thought of like those shifts is just super smart. And thank you, because I would not have come up with that. And we would all be still using metal coins to pay each other. Probably not even metal coins. They'd just be little pebbles or stones. So. What does your credit card? Nice.
Go ahead and enter it, guys. Show me. I need to order something on Amazon.
All right. Well, I think that concludes it. If you guys have any other questions, Stephanie's still somewhat active on Slack, and go ahead and connect with them on LinkedIn. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming out and talking to us. And I think I learned a lot about product ownership that I did not know about. In my company, we don't have product owners. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm more than happy to connect with anybody, and feel free to, I'm not as active on Slack as I used to be. But if you connect with me on LinkedIn and message me there, I try and check it kind of regularly. I'm not a big social media person, but reach out. I do share stuff on my LinkedIn when I have opportunities that come through, either from my company or other companies, interesting stuff. I'm always trying to share that sort of thing. And when you all share cool stuff, I try and share it out as well so it reaches my network. So happy to connect. And if anybody wants to chat further or has like a little bit more one-on-one time with me, more than happy to do that sort of thing. So thank you all for inviting me. This is super cool. And I just have to say, I'm very proud of the work that all of you are doing. I believe that all of you are going to go out and do awesome things because you're showing up for yourselves right now, right here. And that is like, that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. You're paving the way for the future, for your own future. So in the future, think back to now and say thanks. Thanks past me for doing the things, because you all are doing the things for your future self to be bomb you.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah.
If you guys wanted to rewatch this, we are going to post onto our YouTube channel, and I'll post that link in both our Discord and our Slack channel. So with that, I'm going to end the recording. So thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.